Man, let me tell you something. I was on vacation with Sam one time, Samuel Jackson. We was in Portofino. We had finished dinner one time. We walking back to go get on this boat.
Steve Harvey, I hear y'all take vacations together on the yacht or something.
Well, we get on the boat with Magic and Cookie. Steve and Marjorie have their own boat. I met Bernie years and years ago when I used to have a golf tournament down in Bermuda. And Bernie was the highlight of my comedy night.
All I can say is what Bernie told me. And he was upset with Steve because he said Steve tried to get him taken off for the Oceans movie he did.
Oceans 11?
Yeah, and tried to vie for his part after he already got hired.
So this is why Samuel L. Jackson hates Steve Harvey. People used to think they were cool, vacationing together, hanging out on yachts. But when Samuel finally spoke up, he made it clear that wasn't friendship.
Steve Harvey, I hear y'all take vacations together on the yacht or something.
Well, we get on the boat with Magic and Cookie. Steve and Marjorie have their own boat.
He said that running on the ocean wasn't planned. It wasn't some luxury getaway with close friends. It just happened. And from the look on his face, he didn't seem too happy about it. Once you hear all the stories about Steve Harvey stealing jokes, backstabbing other comedians, and getting called out by people like Katt Williams and Mark Curry, then you look at how he stayed silent while Diddy was with Lori. You start to see the full picture.
It's love.
Yeah.
It's that head over heels love. I'm willing to be corny for you kind of love.
Samuel wasn't being petty. He was just done pretending. At first, everyone thought it was friendship goals. But Samuel L. Jackson recently made it clear this wasn't that. It seems like Samuel L. Jackson isn't entirely buying into the Steve Harvey charm, whether it's the professional persona or the real-life dude. Now, we've seen hints of Jackson's feelings over the years. But things hit a whole new level recently when he spilled the tea about his encounter with Harvey on the way to the ocean. A few years ago, photos surfaced online showing Jackson and his wife relaxing with Harvey, and his wife at a vacation destination. At the time, with limited information about their relationship, everyone assumed they were close friends. Headlines even exclaimed, "Life on the Ocean Rave," "Pals," Steve Harvey. Samuel L. Jackson and Magic Johnson enjoyed July 4th on a luxury yacht with their wives. It painted quite a glamorous picture of their friendship, didn't it? Fast forward to recently, and Samuel decided it was time to clarify the situation. Turns out, those ocean encounters weren't planned at all. According to Jackson, he and his wife were simply en route to their chosen vacation spot of the year when they coincidentally ran into Harvey and his spouse. And let me tell you, judging by Jackson's expression as he revealed this, he wanted the world to know that their meeting with Steve wasn't some carefully orchestrated Hollywood rendezvous. It was a pure, unexpected accident.
Steve Harvey, I hear y'all take vacations together on the yacht or something.
Well, we get on the boat with Magic and Cookie. Steve and Marjorie have their own boat.
But it's not just awkward vacations. It's what Steve let happen inside his own household that changed everything. You see, in the summer of 2019, paparazzi captured a moment that set the internet on fire. Sean Diddy Combs, then 49, walking closely beside Lori Harvey, who had just turned 22. Their matching outfits, their intimate body language, the way they moved in sync, like a couple. It didn't look like a business meeting, a friendly stroll, or a coincidence. It looked romantic, suspiciously so.
What you think? It's love.
Yeah.
It's that head over heels love. I'm willing to be corny for you kind of love.
But the story didn't stop there. Shortly after, more photos emerged, this time of a luxurious family vacation in Italy. At the dinner table, Diddy, Lori, Marjorie Harvey, and Steve Harvey seated across from the music mogul, smiling calmly, like it was just another family outing. To fans and critics alike, the visual message was clear. If Lori and Diddy were truly together, Steve was either fine with it or pretending to be.
Okay, so apparently it looks like they are dating, and I don't know if you can deny this because Diddy was spotted with Lori Harvey in Italy alongside Steve Harvey and his wife Marjorie.
And that was the moment people stopped looking at Steve Harvey the same way. The age gap was glaring. Lori had grown up under Diddy's shadow. He had known her for years, reportedly as a family friend, long before she was of legal age. But what truly pushed this relationship into unsettling territory was the rumor that she had previously dated Diddy's son, Justin Combs. Whether the timeline overlapped or not, the optics were inescapable. Lori was allegedly passed from son to father. And Steve? He stood next to it all, grinning for the cameras. Social media was ruthless. Memes exploded. Rumors spread like wildfire. Nick Cannon said what many were thinking, stating bluntly in an interview,
Each his own, but I would feel like I failed as a father.
I think most
if I'm
fathers,
sitting across from the table with a dude the same age as me that's dating my daughter.
yeah.
I would feel like I failed.
And yet, Steve remained silent. No statements, no clarifications, no pushback. People were confused. How could the same man who wrote Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, a book built on principles of male protection, responsibility, and respect, allow something like this to happen under his roof?
I'm gonna talk to you like you my daughter. Slow down. You got to find out what these boys are made out of, and you ain't gonna find it out at 19.
His silence became deafening, and for many fans, that silence was worse than a statement. It felt like permission, or worse, participation. Then came the unfollow. By October 2019, Lori had unfollowed Diddy on Instagram. Their public appearances vanished. Their matching outfits were replaced by distance. People speculated that something serious must have happened. The breakup wasn't messy. It was sudden, almost like an erasure. No public fight, no interviews, no shade. Just gone. But those who had been watching closely knew something had shifted. Lori wasn't just cutting ties with a man. She was cutting ties with a narrative. And what was that narrative? A young black woman, barely out of her teens, gets involved with a billionaire twice her age, after allegedly dating his son, while her celebrity stepfather says nothing, despite standing on a career built around respectability and parental guidance. For the public, it wasn't just strange, it was betrayal. Because if Steve Harvey couldn't protect his own daughter from that kind of situation, then what did all his books, speeches, and sermons even mean? That's when people started asking questions they never asked before. Not just about Lori, not just about Diddy, but about Steve. What kind of man allows something like that? And why didn't he say a word? As the rumors about Lori and Diddy continued to dominate blogs, a darker conversation started bubbling beneath the surface. One not about tabloids or dating gossip, but about responsibility, power, and silence. Because if Diddy was just another celebrity boyfriend, this would have blown over. But Sean Combs was not just another celebrity. He was a man with a long and now increasingly exposed history of control, secrecy, and alleged. When Lori was seen at Ciroc events, stepping into the luxury world Diddy created, fans noticed something odd. She wasn't just being glamorized, she was being branded. Diddy didn't just bring women into his life, he wrapped them in his empire. And Lori, at the time, was the crown jewel of his roster. Young, beautiful, connected, and silent. She never gave interviews, never confirmed anything. And yet, she was always present. Until she wasn't. What shocked people more was Steve Harvey's complete detachment. At no point did he express public discomfort, concern, or even clarification. For a man who had no problem telling the world how women should behave, how men should lead, and how fathers should protect, his absence in that moment was glaring. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled. Some believed Steve Harvey was complicit, that he had brokered or at least approved the relationship to strengthen ties with one of the most powerful men in entertainment. And while fans were questioning Steve's silence on Diddy, another voice, louder and more direct, started shaking the table. Katt Williams. During his sit-down with Shannon Sharpe, Katt threw some serious shade, calling out both Steve and Cedric. He even dropped a bombshell about a showdown that happened years ago between him and Steve Harvey. And spoiler alert, Katt came out on top. This so-called comedy battle went down in 2008 at the Championship of Comedy. Although the event wasn't promoted as a face-off, Katt decided he had enough of Steve's antics and made it one. He absolutely roasted Steve on stage, cracking jokes about Steve being bald and rocking a man's wig. And let's be real, at that time, most folks had no idea Steve was secretly rocking a high-top fade on national TV. People were obsessed with his hair. Men everywhere were jealous of his perfectly lined-up hairline, while their own hairlines were retreating quicker than they could book a barber's appointment. Steve's high-top fade was his signature look, the crown jewel of his TV persona. Heads turned when he walked into a room, with that fade shining in all its glory. So, when Katt Williams came for his hair, it hit deep. That wasn't just a regular roast. Katt was coming for Steve's self-esteem, his confidence, his pride. And whether Steve admitted it or not, Katt's words had an impact. The proof? After that night, Steve eventually ditched the wig and opted for the bald look. Yup, Katt had exposed him, and Steve had to own it. Fast forward to today, and Steve Harvey's bald head has become part of his iconic look. It pairs perfectly with that crisp mustache. But back then, he was hiding behind that wig. And according to Katt, the humiliation from that roast was enough to make Steve hang up his stand-up shoes for good.
There are 30,000 new scripts in Hollywood every year. Not one of them asks for a country bumpkin black dude that can't talk good over KB and look like Mr. Potato Head. There ain't none.
If that's true, no wonder Steve would feel rattled whenever Katt's name is mentioned. It's not every day you bump into the person who supposedly ended your stand-up career. And if you think Steve was over it, think again. 9 years later, in 2017, during the Def Comedy Jam 25, Dave Chappelle made a joke about Katt Williams, and Steve apparently got visibly nervous. But you can't really blame him. I mean, if someone who roasted you into early retirement shows up, you're not going to be chill about it. Now, as for Cedric the Entertainer, his beef with Katt is more low-key, but still pretty juicy. Apparently, most people had no idea the two even had issues until Katt spilled the beans on Club Shay Shay. Katt claimed that Cedric had straight up stolen one of his best jokes, despite Katt warning him not to. According to Katt, this particular joke was his signature closer, the kind of material that had audiences in stitches. It was so good that BET had used it in their commercials for Comic View back in 1998. Here's where it gets messy. Katt said Cedric came to watch him perform the joke at the Comedy Store, loved it, and even congratulated him afterward. But then, a couple of years later, Cedric turned around and used that same joke, almost word for word, in his set for Kings of Comedy. All he did was swap Katt's car for a spaceship. To make things worse, Katt wasn't about to let that slide. He roasted Cedric too, saying he was a talentless walrus who couldn't sing, dance, or write a joke to save his life. Katt took it further, clowning Cedric's comedy specials, calling them so bad that they're not even available on Netflix or Tubi.
He did 4 comedy specials. They're so bad, Shannon, they're not available on Netflix or Tubi.
Now, you might think Katt's going too hard, but when you consider the accusations he's thrown at both Cedric and Steve, maybe he's justified. Katt has made some serious claims against these guys, even suggesting that they, along with Ricky Smiley, conspired against the late Bernie Mac. According to Katt, Steve and Cedric pretended to be all buddy-buddy with Bernie, but behind the scenes, they were jealous of him and tried to sabotage his career. Katt pointed out that Steve was envious of Bernie's acting chops, especially because Hollywood studios weren't exactly lining up to cast Steve in roles. Katt went on to accuse Steve and the rest of the Kings of Comedy cast of deliberately putting Bernie Mac in the opening slot during their shows, thinking Steve would kill it as the headliner. But guess what? When the footage was being edited, the producers flipped the script and put Bernie's set last because, well, Bernie was the funniest one up there.
Some bitch kids who got them small for me. Sassy, talking, head shaking. Talk to the hand.
It might sound like a wild conspiracy theory, But Katt's claims were later backed up by none other than DJ Ed Lover. Ed, who was close to Bernie Mac, said that Bernie himself had told him about Steve's shady moves. According to Ed Lover, Bernie confided in him that Steve Harvey had tried to snatch a role from him in Ocean's 11. Bernie didn't mince words. He believed that Steve was actively working against him. So when you start putting all these pieces together, you can kind of see why Samuel L. Jackson would say Steve Harvey gets all tense when Katt Williams is around. These guys, Steve, Cedric, and their crew, seem to have a history of stepping on other comedians to keep the spotlight on themselves. They've allegedly stolen jokes, backstabbed fellow comics, and done whatever it takes to stay on top. Most comedians probably stay quiet about all this, preferring to focus on their own careers. Bernie Mac, for example, was aware of what was going on but chose not to rock the boat too much. But Katt Williams? He's never been one to keep his mouth shut when he sees some shady business. He calls it like he sees it, and that's likely why Steve, Cedric, and others are so scared of him. Another person who recently backed Katt Williams' claims is Bernie Mac's own daughter, Janice McCulloch. McCulloch focused on Williams' expression of praise for her father while calling out comedians, namely Steve Harvey, who allegedly tried to slight Mac before he passed away at the age of 50 in 2008. She said,
I felt like it was genuine. There are some people who have given, my dad his flowers now that he's dead that I'm looking at like, doggone well, he wasn't doing that when he was.
McCullough said she has the utmost appreciation and respect for the Pimp Chronicles jokester for his remarks. I felt like it was genuine. There are some people who have given my dad his flowers now that he's dead that I'm looking at like, now doggone well, you wasn't doing that when he was alive. And that's not just famous people, just people all across the board. She explained that Williams' praise for her father was proof that the late comedian was a man of integrity. It does my heart good that my dad was a stand-up guy. The man that I knew him to be was who he actually was to people, because that's a thing. Like, we can love people and think they one way, and find out later. McCullough continued, I just really appreciate what I believe is genuine love and respect that Katt Williams showed my father. She added that she is open to having a sit-down with Williams. Anyway, Katt Williams isn't the only one calling Steve Harvey out for joke stealing. Veteran comedian Mark Curry also came forward, claiming that Steve had ripped off one of his bits too. According to Mark, he was chilling at home when a friend called him, telling him to turn on the TV. When he did, there was Steve Harvey on stage, performing one of Mark's classic jokes from 1999.
He did all my Halloween material one Halloween. I'm watching, somebody called me and said, man, homeboy doing your material. So he did my whole Halloween run. And I know he didn't think of it. This is true stuff that really happened to me.
Mark had performed the joke during his own stand-up special, produced by Comedy Central Presents. When confronted about it, Steve denied the whole thing, telling Mark Curry to come with receipts if he was going to accuse him of joke theft. He added, the only reason I'm commenting is because he keeps running his mouth about, now grow up. Never stole a joke in 35 years. Come to me like a man and tell me what the joke is. Well, fans of the veteran comedian did dig up the joke Mark Curry was referring to and proved that Steve really did Jack Curry's joke. The routine was a Halloween joke in which Mark claimed that they didn't have money while growing up and had to use some strange but funny costumes for All Hallows Eve.
Halloween was a trip. Halloween, we couldn't afford no Halloween costumes. Hey, kids, please. Mama sent us down to the liquor store, put boxes on us. We didn't know what we were. I don't know what we are.
Steve apparently performed the exact same joke on his eponymous talk show, Little Big Shots, where he was brought up in a family with no money and had to dress up in funny Halloween costumes. In an interview with Willie D on his podcast, Willie D Live, Curry stated that Steve's motivation for stealing his jokes wasn't financial gain, but the desire to be like him, Mark Curry. At first, he did not address the Think Like a Man author by his name and spoke about how many comedians are swiping jokes in his industry.
Why are you on my material?
Right.
What's that about? And then, people want to jump up, oh, he didn't know, he didn't steal your... So yes, he did.
Comparing it to what happens in the rap industry, Curry claimed that the content is similar. But many things clearly distinguish one artist from the other. However, stand-up comics are different, and when people steal, it places people in a position where they have to either defend their originality or comfort the person who stole their material. Thus, he sent a warning to Steve Harvey. "I'm a step to you. If you stealing my set, F you," he said. "I step to you." That doesn't mean it has to be a physical thing. He then told Willie D he takes pride in writing his own jokes and tries to write on topics that are different from what other comedians are writing on. This helps him to detect when comedians steal his routine, because those jokes are unique and ain't like any other. And that was how he spotted the parts of his jokes that Steve Harvey stole. "Take the Steve Harvey thing. It's a B move," Curry said. "Maybe he's not stealing my material, you know? I maybe give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe one of his writers did it, but they know. We all know whose material it is. It ain't about the money," he said. "Harvey got enough money. So it looked like you want some of me. You want to be me. Therefore, you ain't got enough money. I look at it like that's all right, boy. I'm a G in the game. You want to be me. You want my style." However, Steve Harvey shot back at Mark Curry, telling the veteran comedian to grow up and stop making stuff up. He claimed that he stopped doing stand-up a long time ago, so he doesn't even know what the old G was talking about. "Mark Curry needs to grow up," Harvey said at the time. "Steve Harvey ain't been on stage since 2015. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's making stuff up, so I'm in peace." However, many fans thought that Mark Curry was right when he said that Steve Harvey wanted to be like him. They pointed out that not only did the TV host allegedly steal Curry's jokes, but he also copied Curry's TV show Hangin' with Mr. Cooper. Katt Williams also co-signed the fans' sentiments when he mentioned the exact same thing during his interview with Shannon Sharpe. Katt Williams said of Steve Harvey, "The same Steve that went to go watch Mark Curry do his whole sitcom and then stole everything Mark Curry had." So now it makes sense why Samuel L. Jackson wanted to set the record straight. He didn't want to be associated with Steve Harvey. Not personally, not professionally. Because when you look at everything, Lori and Diddy, the silence, the stolen jokes, the drama with Bernie Mac, it's not just one thing, it's a pattern. And after hearing what Katt Williams, Mark Curry, and even Bernie's daughter had to say, you start to see why more and more people are distancing themselves from Steve Harvey. Anyway, that's it for the video, folks. Bye.